I want to link in with the recent protests in favor of Palestine in London
Yes,
and across
good. I'm glad. Go
many
ahead.
American cities and European cities. You've seen huge mass protests in favor of Palestine. Some would say even supporting terrorists. And there's this slogan, "Free Palestine." I don't know if you've heard of it.
Of course.
Of course you have. Is it moral to say "Free Palestine"?
Well, it's accompanied by a clear desire for genocide. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That means no Israel. There is no other case in the world, 200 plus countries, where people demonstrate for the annihilation of another country. Just as there was never any other annihilation of a people except for the Nazis. There is no difference. And I've never compared anyone to Nazis. I think it's actually sacrilegious. But there is no difference in my mind between Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, the Iranian regime on the one hand, and the Nazis on the other. The biggest single difference is that the Nazis hid their exterminationist policies, whereas these people video it and are proud of it. Iran announces, "We wish to annihilate every Jew in Israel." The raison d'etre of the Iranian regime is to annihilate Israel. The Germans hid their annihilationists. They hid it from the Jews. They didn't tell them, "We're sending you to gas chambers. We're sending you to relocation work camps."
I think for the sake of my country and for yours, I hope that not all of those people who were at those protests support Hamas and support these terrorist acts.
Well, if they don't, they're fooling themselves, and it's irrelevant. See, one of the single biggest themes of my life is that intentions don't mean a damn thing. They are, in effect, advocating genocide when they support Hamas or Hezbollah or quote-unquote the Palestinian cause. The Palestinian cause is eliminate Israel and substitute for it Palestine. That is the Palestinian cause today. It wasn't necessarily when I don't know, the Oslo Accords were made. Although as soon as they were signed, Arafat sent out suicide bombers to blow up Israeli weddings and bar mitzvahs.
But of course, there are millions of civilians in Palestine or in Gaza and in the West Bank. And people have seen recent footage of people, refugees and devastated, kind of bombed out areas of Gaza, for example. And you can justify that absolutely from Israel's perspective. But I suppose my question is, when those people, if their intention is to say, "I want to protect the innocent civilians in Gaza," there's nothing wrong with that, is there? I mean, can you make a distinction between people supporting those innocent civilians and people supporting Hamas, I suppose?
Yes, I do. I don't make a big distinction because what would you have said if you were a Brit during World War II and there were demonstrators only on behalf of German civilians? Would you say, look, they're very supportive of the British war effort. They know that the Nazi regime is despicable, but they really care about German civilians? That would be a hard case to make. So this notion, they don't like Hezbollah, they don't like Iran, they don't like Hamas, they're just worried about those civilians. Please use the analogy of World War II. There are those to this day who think the atom bomb was wrong to be dropped, even though it saved probably 1 million Japanese lives, let alone mass numbers of American lives. After all, they were innocent and they were. And it was known, and Harry Truman, the president of the U.S., knew it at the time, there are innocent Japanese who will die. Every Palestinian death is caused by Hezbollah or by Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, whichever is involved in that particular war. Just as every German who died in World War II was the victim of Hitler and the Nazis, not a victim of the West.
The reason I'm asking is because, as I said, there's been so many people protesting in London, and those protesters have vandalized statues of people like Winston Churchill. They've done things which I think is completely abhorrent. Some of them wore stickers which were literally supporting Hamas with the paraglider, etc. So there are some really terrible people in those protests. However, hundreds of thousands of people have gone on those protests, and I really don't want to believe that every single one of them is
Right.
is morally wrong. And I know people who went on those protests who I know this is how they think. They think Israel is killing people in Gaza, and I want to protect those
Right.
civilians in
So
Gaza.
I gave the analogy. Britain was killing people in Germany, and Germany was killing people all over Europe. So if somebody went to a demonstration on behalf of Germany during World War II, he would be a despicable human being.
So do you think that those despicable human beings, in your words, are ignorant? Are they willfully ignorant? Why do they think like this? I mean,
Yes, they're willfully ignorant. That's right. If you would say to them, they are willfully ignorant, and they're willfully deceptive, including to themselves. Because I have dealt with this so much in my life. I mean, people should watch my 7 minutes, my debate in Oxford on the whole subject of Hamas. It's as if I gave the talk yesterday. But I remember at a speech at Stanford University, and a pro-Palestinian woman, American, not of Middle Eastern descent, came over and said, "I agree with you. I'm for peace." I go, "That's lovely. I am for peace too," which is the truth. And I asked her, "So, are you for peace with Israel as the Jewish state, or a Jewish state?" And she said, "No." I said, "Then you're not for peace." I said, "So you're not for peace with Israel. You're for peace without Israel." And that's what all those demonstrators are, all of them. If there are demonstrators who think Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state, then they are being willfully ignorant. Or they want to make their family happy. They don't want to be, everybody's going to the demonstration and I'm going to sit home. Most people are sheep, including most Westerners. But there is no possible moral explanation for attending one of those demonstrations on that side.
What is the consequence of having so many people in Britain and in America who support these people?
The consequence is getting Churchill's statue torn down. That means your civilization is being torn down. These people don't happen to hate Jews and love Britain and love what you stand for. Okay? They loathe what you stand for, but the Jews are in the way. The notion that Jew haters, Jew exterminators are the Jews' problem is the single stupidest attitude a non-Jew can have. That's the Jews' problem. That's like saying that cancer is, and then name a group, it's their problem. Cancer is universal. Jew hatred, whatever you think about Jews, okay? I don't even care if you love Jews or don't love Jews. It's irrelevant to my point. It's just a fact. Those who wish to wipe out the Jews wish to wipe out all that is good. They are not sweet people who happen to have a loathsome heart vis-a-vis Jews. That not massive numbers of non-Jews want to delude themselves like Neville Chamberlain did, that is because the ability of people to fool themselves is infinite.
Because Chamberlain famously talked about Czechoslovakia being a faraway place of which we know nothing. But Israel, there are some America First conservatives in America who say the same thing about Israel.
That is exactly correct. And I asked them rhetorically, because they don't come on the show generally, but I would happily have them. But I would say, what is your argument with Neville Chamberlain? He said that Czechoslovakia, exactly what you said is what I have been saying. He said Czechoslovakia is not our business. And for that matter, Hitler's anti-Semitism is not our business. Our business is Britain. Yeah, it cost the Brits a lot of lives, that naivete.
So do you feel that Israel's fight is America's fight?
Totally. It's the Western world's fight. It's the fight of good versus evil. If this isn't good versus evil, and you can't even come to that conclusion that it's good versus evil, that doesn't mean Israel's perfect. Good isn't perfect. America wasn't perfect, but the fight against the Soviet Union in the Cold War was good versus evil. When I was at Columbia University studying, that was my field, Soviet Union, communism. I learned Russian. I went to the Soviet Union a number of times. I was at the School of International Affairs. This was my field. And I was taught overwhelmingly by my professors that the battle in the Cold War was two superpowers fighting for hegemony. It was not freedom versus tyranny. It was not good versus evil. When Ronald Reagan called the Soviet Union an evil empire, he was excoriated by all the newspapers of America, except, I believe, the Wall Street Journal.